That night, Cole sat at his campfire, the journal beside him, the mare's blood trail still fresh in his mind. The flames licked at the edge of his thoughts, but he couldn't stop seeing her eyes, that mute girl with 1,000 truths drawn in pencil and silence. They were all part of something bigger now. The girl, the horses, his brother, and Shadowmane, watching, waiting. The wind shifted, carrying with it the low rumble of hooves in the distance. Cole didn't look up. He just whispered, "I'm listening." The morning came without ceremony, the sky washed in slate gray as though the land itself had drawn its breath and held it. Cole moved with purpose, boots crunching over brittle earth as he headed toward the west ridge. The wind had picked up again, low and constant, like a warning spoken too softly to hear but impossible to ignore. Shadowmane had returned to the canyon basin just before dawn. Cole had seen the black stallion from a distance, standing perfectly still atop a rocky outcrop, surveying the land like a sentinel carved from night itself. The herd gathered loosely behind him, restless but obedient, as if tethered not by reins but reverence. Cole couldn't stop thinking about the journal, about the sketchbook, about Mark's final words, scribbled and scorched. Asterisk, he knows about the stash. The horses keep circling it. Shadowmane stands guard. Asterisk, it hadn't made sense then. But it did now. Somewhere out here, buried beneath dust and stone, was something more valuable than wild freedom. Something dangerous enough for a man like Dale Hartman to kill for. The stallion remembered. Cole could feel it every time the horse's eyes locked with his. There was something behind them, an intelligence that unnerved him. Horses were observant, sensitive. But Shadowmane was something more. He didn't just lead. He judged. And Cole wasn't sure if he passed that judgment yet. He reached the high valley known as Widow's Hollow, named not for any tragedy but for its eerie stillness. No birds sang here. No insects hummed. It was a place where the land felt suspended in mourning, and the herd avoided it. Except one. The chestnut mare. She stood at the edge of a narrow ravine, favoring her wounded side, her ears flicking toward Cole as he approached. She didn't flee. She didn't even flinch. She just watched him, a faint tremor running through her flank. Cole stopped a few yards short, crouching low. "I remember you," he said quietly. "You weren't just hurt. You were hunted." The mare pawed at the earth, uneasy. Then she turned and walked toward the ravine. Cole followed. The cut in the earth was steep but passable. He climbed down slowly, scanning the walls. A faint trail led along the rock face, worn smooth by time, invisible unless you knew where to look. The mare picked her way ahead of him, limping but steady, until they reached a small overhang obscured by brush. There she stopped. Cole pulled the branches back. A shallow cave opened behind them. Inside, the remains of old crates, rotted wood and rusted metal, sprawled across the ground. Ammunition boxes, canteens, surveyor tools. And buried beneath it all, wrapped in a torn canvas, something heavy. He knelt and opened it. Maps. Dozens of them. Old, hand-drawn, marking mineral veins, aquifer locations, and a grid of subterranean access tunnels that hadn't existed on any modern chart. Then came something worse. Explosives. Not relics. No. Military grade. Cole's mouth went dry. This wasn't just smuggling. This was sabotage. Someone had planned to destroy parts of the ridge, cover their tracks, erase the wild land to get to whatever was hidden beneath it. Maybe it had started with greed. Maybe revenge. But now it had teeth. And Cole could feel them closing. The mare whinnied softly and stepped back. A sound echoed above, stones shifting. Cole stood quickly, stepping into the light. Shadowmane stood at the top of the ravine, his black frame motionless, ears forward, eyes locked on Cole. Then the stallion did something that took Cole's breath away. He descended. Graceful, deliberate, unafraid. Step by step, Shadowmane came down the ravine path, each hoof-fall deliberate, his massive body moving with quiet power. The mare didn't retreat. She stepped aside. Shadowmane approached the cave and stopped beside Cole. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the stallion lifted his head and let out a low, almost mournful nicker. Cole followed his gaze. Another locket. This one crushed beneath a collapsed plank. He picked it up and opened it. A photograph. A woman. A baby. Marks. Cole staggered back, heart pounding. He remembered the photo. His brother had kept it on his dresser. He'd lost it during his first year out on the ridge. Or so he thought. But it had been here. With Shadowmane. With the truth. The stallion pawed the earth once, then backed away, eyes burning into Cole's. A warning. A plea. Then he turned and vanished into the scrub. Cole stood alone, the map and photograph in his hands, the echo of hoofbeats fading behind him. The pieces were coming together now, not perfectly but close enough. Mark had found the stash. Or stumbled onto it. And someone Dale had followed. The Mustangs had seen it all. Shadowmane had tried to protect the land, the herd, and maybe even Mark. And the girl, mute, terrified, had seen it too. Now it was Cole's turn. He returned to the trailer that night, the sketchbook under his arm. The girl met him on the porch before he could knock. Her eyes were wide with recognition. He handed her the locket. She clutched it tight. Inside, her mother poured black coffee and waited. Cole laid out the map, the photograph, and the charred journal pages. He didn't have to explain much. The woman's face turned pale as she read the names. "They've been drilling for weeks," she whispered. "South Ridge. Told us it was for water." "It's not," Cole said. "They're looking for access. Tunnels from the Cold War." Mark found the entrance. "Shadowmane's been circling it." The girl tugged at Cole's sleeve, then drew quickly. "A ridge. A fence. 3 trucks. A timer. They're going to blow it open," he said. "Tomorrow." The mother nodded grimly. "Then you'd better stop them." As Cole stepped into the darkness, rifle slung across his back, he heard a sound behind him. A soft snort. Shadowmane stood in the clearing beyond the trailer, the moonlight catching the curve of his mane like flame. He didn't move. Didn't have to. The message was clear. This wasn't just about one ranger anymore. It was about the land. The herd. The secret buried in stone. And the horse who refused to forget. The wind was merciless at the South Ridge, sharp and dry, scraping across the rock faces like a blade across bone. Cole crouched behind a cluster of brush just before dawn, eyes locked on the construction site below. 3 trucks idled beside a series of crates. Men moved with purpose, hauling equipment toward a steel-reinforced shaft in the earth. They wore plain clothes, but their movements were too precise. Military or former military. And at their center, directing it all with the precision of a conductor, stood Dale Hartman. Cole's breath caught in his chest as he watched his former mentor bark silent orders. Dale had always been respected, even revered, a man who taught young rangers how to read the wilderness like scripture. But something had broken in him. Or maybe something had always been fractured, just hidden behind the badge. The map Cole had recovered marked this spot as an entrance to one of the Cold War tunnels. Abandoned government vaults from the 1950s, never logged officially. Mark had found them. And Dale had followed. Cole crept closer, inching through thornbush and stone. His rifle hung from his back, but this wasn't about firepower. Not yet. This was about proof. If he could get close enough to capture photos, record conversations, anything linking Dale to the explosives, he could bring it to the Bureau. And it legally. But a sound behind him stopped him cold. A rustle. Then hooves. He turned slowly. Shadowmane. The stallion stood halfway up the ridge, nostrils flared, ears back. His body was tense, coiled like a spring. And then Cole understood, he wasn't alone. The herd was moving through the valley behind them. Fast. They were fleeing. Not from predators. From the coming detonation. Cole looked back down at the site. A man knelt beside the shaft, pulling wires taut. A blinking light on a black box. Timer. 5 minutes. No time for evidence. No time for plans. Just one chance. Cole ran. He broke cover at a dead sprint, barreling down the incline, shouting as loud as his lungs allowed. "Get away from the shaft. You'll bury everything alive." Dale spun, startled, then furious. "Cole?" The workers froze, confused. Cole skidded to a stop near the crates. "There's a herd right beneath this ridge. You set that charge, you'll kill them all." Dale raised his pistol. "Back off," he ordered. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know about the tunnels. The stash. The maps. Mark found it. You silenced him. But the land didn't forget, and neither did the horses. You think anyone's going to care?" Dale sneered. "It's federal land. No witnesses. No proof." A sound cut through the rising tension, a high, shrill whistle, wind-borne and haunting. The stallion's cry. Shadowmane appeared atop the ridge like thunder given shape, rearing against the rising sun. Dust rose around him. And then the herd followed. Dozens of Mustangs pouring down the slope in waves, their hooves pounding like war drums. They weren't running from danger anymore. They were charging toward it. Panic rippled through the site. Workers shouted. One bolted for the truck. Another fumbled for the detonator. Cole lunged, tackling him just as his hand touched the trigger. The remote skittered across the dirt. Gunfire rang out. Cole rolled, grabbing his rifle. He didn't aim to kill, just to stop. He fired once, hitting Dale's shoulder. The man cried out, dropping his pistol as he stumbled backward, falling beside the shaft he tried to destroy. Shadowmane tore past them all, hooves missing men by inches, eyes locked on the ridge beyond. And then the impossible happened. The chestnut mare, the one who'd led Cole to the truth, stopped beside Dale. She turned slowly, facing him, and lowered her head. Dale froze, bleeding and dazed. The horse pawed once at the dirt, then turned away, joining the stallion and vanishing into the dust. They left him there. Broken. Exposed. By the time the Bureau arrived, the charges had been disarmed and the camp secured. Cole turned everything over, the journal, the maps, the locket, the sketchbook. He told them everything, every step, every truth bought with blood and silence. They arrested Dale at the hospital. The tunnels were sealed, marked as protected land. And the Mustangs, the herd that had once only run, were recognized as part of a living ecosystem. Guardians, not just symbols. A week later, Cole returned to the ridge with the girl and her mother. The sun was high. The air was still. He handed the girl a clean notebook. She didn't draw. She walked instead, barefoot across the same stones where her friend, the mare, had once stood. She looked toward the horizon, then turned and pointed. Shadowmane stood there, watching. No fences between them. Just understanding. Cole knew then that some truths didn't need courts or headlines. Some truths lived in hoofprints. In silence. In the eyes of a wild horse who remembered everything. And never ran from it.